we did it. Awesome. So you're just saying that your energy is a little bit, you said today was a little empty, and that 0 to 10, your energy level was at
I mean, we should say that it's 12 a.m. where I am, and it's an 8 is quite good already. But yeah,
8 is very good. Like actually, it's plenty. So this might be a minimal little increase, but can I invite you to close your eyes and tune into your energy field, both your aura, your field around you, mostly the field around you, and I'd like you to choose a color. Ask your body what color will dissolve everyone else's energy out of your field, and what color do you get?
I see like dark teal, like the
Yeah.
bird with the beautiful stuff.
So imagine your field. It's 4 feet to your left, to your right, above you, below you, and imagine that full of that teal color. Fill it up, and if you want, you can do multiple layers. You can paint layers over it if you like. Make sure you get your throat chakra. There you go. You breathed deep on when I said that. You're missing it, that's why. So now I'm going to invite you, if it feels right, tune in. Does it feel right to add some orange somewhere in there?
If I have to.
Yeah, if it's okay. This will energize you. I get the orange will. The teal was clearing, but the orange is going to give you energy. So now just bring a vibrant orange, a layer inside of it. Bring that vibrant orange, beautiful, radiant, just full of life, bristling with life force. Orange surrounding you, behind you. Behind your head, behind your head, that bristling life force. Your mental energy gets really strong, and can you feel your aura expanding?
Mm-hmm.
What are you noticing?
Well, I met somebody today who was working. He's a Tao master, and he was working on the like he was working on the energy, and then he was just making the point afterwards. Is many people think the chakras only on the front side of the body, but they are actually on both sides.
Yes.
And I'm just feeling, I'm feeling the aura on the back a lot, especially when you said that orange energy in the neck. It's like then the whole, like it's like I'm protected or sealed on the back, not having chakras on the front.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was noticing the energy in the back needed to be brought awareness to.
Mm-hmm.
So where's your energy at now? How do you feel?
Well, I feel more that I have my own sealed space. I mean, the energy feels quite maybe the same, but it's more like I don't have the interference of a lot of other stuff in it. So that feels really nice.
Yeah, cool. And would you say it's still at an 8, or is it a...
It's kind of numberless now. Like, I guess that's a good thing.
Infinite.
Right.
All right, thanks for letting me share that with you. It's just a little fun tool that really, it's working with specific frequencies to create intentions, and and you'll sleep better now as well. You'll be more clear for everyone else in yourself. You'll be clearer and show up stronger.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to share that with you. Oh, it's early up here still. It's 9 in the morning. I've been up since 5:30.
Oh my God.
So
I feel like we're opposites. I'm gonna probably be up to that time. But I guess I don't know, I'm still on some other time. I'm always on some other time because I always travel. So
yeah. Your body's still catching up. So I guess that's the first thing. Let's revisit this intention that we shared. I know you're doing a lot, and you have your hand in many different areas, and you're doing different programs, and you and I had some really cool synergies regarding both health, 4-6. Did you get a chance to see the message I sent you on Facebook?
If it was the like recently, very recently, no. I think I looked. No, if it was like to, today, your last night, probably not.
Yeah,
But
it was
I
last.
could look at it.
Yeah, it was last night, and yeah, that'd be good, because those are the notes I want to revisit. Make sure I.
Let's.
You had suggested you did some audio messages, and you suggested some things to speak to, like potentially doing, what did you call it? You're doing some recordings with people on specialized topics of gates.
Right.
And I said, well, I was tuning in, and I definitely can speak on quite a few of them. And particularly, I like the gate number 6, because I have gate number 6. And I said I have many of those I could speak on. The 4-6 would be something like I think you and I talk about. But
So the profiles, to make it clear for people that watch
right.
the 4-6 profile.
The 4-6 profile in the genetic structure of the conscious and unconscious mind. And I also feel like I can speak to the manifestor topic, manifestor in general, like, and then I wanted to say specifically, if we wanted to, it could be, I could speak about the emotional topic, being emotionally defined,
Mm-hmm.
or being the aura manifestor. And then the other thing is I could speak specifically to an emotional manifestor. So I just wanted to highlight, distinguish, it could be one or any of those, or a little mix of them. And it depends on how specific we want to get. I can also speak to my pure channel. I only have one channel. So I have one, I'm a pure manifester, whereas a lot of manifestors really aren't. And I think because I am a manifester and I'm so empathic, I think it actually makes a difference.
Right.
There's a distinct difference. And there's a powerfulness to the pure manifesting channel that is distinctly different than the non-manifesting channels or projected channels and things. So I was thinking my channel is 36 to the 35 or 35, 36. So I could speak to that. A lot of experience there. Or I could also speak to having a completely open heart. This one kind of makes me happy. I have no gates in my heart.
I mean, this is something, the open centers or the completely open centers is something that's fascinated me for a long time, and something that I want us to talk about now or at some point, because I have the ego and the emotional completely open, and you have the heart. So it's like I've actually feel like I'm getting more and more information and downloads on it, like how the innocence of the open centers and how valuable that is in the world of today. So that's really, a topic that I love.
Can I tell you, my whole body, I'm getting full chills, like full electrical zzz, and I just got that. That's why you and I, not only the 4-6, but I feel this easy flow, like something we have in common. And I feel that with you, when I speak with you, and that is, I think it's this open heart we share, and it's that innocence, and I see that in you, and it's a reflection. So I agree with that. Like, I think that would be very powerful for people, as well as if we synergized with that, that would, I think that would assist us both in really crystallizing the boundary around it, what it is, what it isn't. And there's a special, I believe, I say special, everything's special, but there is a distinctly unique and energetic comes from a heart that has no gates. I think that, and based off of what I just felt right now, I mean,
Right.
And so that could be a topic we could talk about. And again, I'm just replying to your messages that you sent to the voice text, like what could be ideas. And the other thing about open centers is me being a medical intuitive. I think that comes from an open spleen and having 7 open centers, specifically the root chakra, and specifically the sacral. I just think the heart, or the sacral, the heart, and the root, those 3, and then the spleen, I don't know, they're all mixed, make for this collection of information. I'm collecting stress, I'm collecting pressure, I'm collecting fear. I'm collecting their heart state. Like all that information is exactly what gives me a foundational blueprint of someone's nervous system and their health and how the energy and chi is flowing in their body. And it's, when I say it, it's like, oh wow, it's very logical.
Mhm.
It's very concrete to me to speak in a masculine, structured way about it, as opposed to this woo woo. Well, it's these energies have specific frequencies, and these frequencies have specific measurable components. And if I had a frequency measuring device, I could isolate and understand. Oh, it's at this hertz. You know, fear is at this hertz. Fear is from this hertz to this hertz. The pressure from adrenaline is from this hertz to this hertz.
Mhm.
Like I could break it all down, and the heart. And I'm saying, well, my body and my brain is able to perceive the difference, just as you can tell a cello from an electric guitar. I'm perceiving stress in the body and the root versus fear. Like,
Mhm.
so it's just interesting to me how, so any of those, and we can, it could be one. Go ahead.
What you just said made me think about the spleen as such an interesting center, because I have a very defined spleen and I have the 57 twice. So, and I have it like, it's not like I have it twice in you know, the same planets. I have it in my Mars and in my Saturn, I think it is. Um, so that's intuition, right? And it's an intuition that is consistent and that you can trust. So somehow in that there's also being intuitive, and it's also the full channel with the 34. So it kind of gets that like sacral input all the time of energy. So it's interesting of saying like that is kind of an intuition that we can use in the world for our, I mean, it is part of the integration circuitry, but it still tells us about other people. It informs us about everything. So that in itself is intuitive. And then the completely, like when you have much more openness, it's also in another way. And I think maybe it's a trickier thing. I think the open centers always takes like a little bit more wisdom to become an asset. For me, it's kind of, it was always an asset. It was something that it was easier to tap into since it was defined. So that's interesting how both kind of lead to the same thing, which is actually probably like that with the most centers, because my completely open emotional was really kind of a burden before I knew about it, and when I was younger. And now it can be this beautiful, like just like taking the mirror and kind of reflecting back what's going on, and then other people can find their guidance through that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I am in a full agreement. And as you talk about the emotion being a burden, I see the open spleen being a burden. Like I would cling and hold on to shit that was just like horrible for me, just horrendously. And it's like that sense, like my father has a defined sense of a defined spleen. And um, so I'm also it's really interesting because I get this comfort, right? This deep sense of like comfort and security, and it's masculine. And I'm also getting, and my dad's very fearful. He's extremely fearful. Like, I mean, very, the guy's barely went on a plane for the first time in his life this year. He's in his 40s, and he only did it for his grandchildren. It's like, and now he's like, wow, it really wasn't that bad. And he's all like, so, you know, being close to him, me being an empath and being like someone as a child, I liked being cuddled and held and nurtured. Like physical touch is important to me. Being nurturing is touch. One of my love languages is physical touch. And it's such a mixed bag, because I don't know if you've ever have you ever gotten body work from somebody who has unclean energy?
No, yeah, that's one of the, yeah.
Right? What was that like for you? Just briefly, like, I mean,
I
could you
mean, I
tell
guess
your system was different than before or after than before?
I mean, for me, it's a consistent discernment. And I think we spoke about this last time when we were just speaking informally. You know, my mom, she was a seeker, and she used to go to so many different therapists, and not only therapists, but like modalities and everything. So I learned quite early about discernment. And still, you know, so already who works on me and who doesn't work on me, it's like already kind of like a big filtering thing. But, and like you say, even sometimes when you feel like somebody has clean energy, and then depending on, they can be clean in one plane, they can be clean in the mental, or they can be clean in the spiritual, but then there's like this emotional burden that, so it's really tricky. And then I feel like if 4-6, there is like, we have that possibility in a way to kind of like numb, like to kind of close off a bit. And I think that's a good protection in a way. Many times it's hard to be a 4-6 and kind of feel like your heart closes, and then you have to wait until it's open, or you get into objectivity and you can't feel your feelings. So yeah, I feel like I have that self protection in a way that is there. And sometimes I guess, especially when we work with like, life force and more those kinds of practices, when it might not also even be a therapist, it can be somebody that you circulate energy with in a, I don't know, Taoist or in a Tantra workshop, and then you really feel what it is to have unclean energy in you, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all.
So it's not only not fun, it creates a dissonance, it creates a disharmony, and
Yeah.
it actually takes further practice or further work to clear or clean or to reset or regenerate your own energy to the point where that can leave. Because what I find is, it's like, I mean, it's like, imagine you're inside of your body as an orchestra, and you have the violins playing with the clarinets, or the cellos, and one of them's complete. They're playing two different songs, and not only it's not just two different songs. One's playing um, like a very warlike scene where they're like everything's fighting, it's very intense, and the other's playing something that's extremely happy and joyful, and it's like two they're dissonance. They create a dissonance,
Yeah.
and someone can misperceive that dissonance and think it's them. They can internalize that. They could also try to act it out, meaning they can give that energy expression, whereas it wasn't their behavior or their frustration. And I hate to bring this up, but this is actually on the topic right now. For me, it's in the field, but this happens with people who are victims of violence or
Mm-hmm.
rape or sexual offenses. Is they take on the energy, the negative energy, the shame, the guilt, of their perpetrator, and they will even try to protect them. We can go to that's the extreme of that one, but we do the same understanding when we think about parents and children. So our first conditioning, and for anyone watching, our conditioning begins right when we're born, and our parents are the ones that, and our guardians are the ones we're surrounded by, our family unit, and that field, everything that's in it is what conditions us the most. So if we understand that, like, um, we are being programmed through the frequencies, through the energy in our environment continuously, and we internalize that. That's what our conditioning is, that the human design is here to guide us and empower us and inform us to get out of, if that makes sense. So just connecting those dots there.
And again, maybe going back to what we said right before with the spleen, for me, I have those gates. I have the 44, so I can kind of smell when something, is not right. And I have the 32 that kind of knows what's worth like putting water on, or, feeding, and what isn't. So I have so many gates. So somehow, again, I think that the open spleen, again, when that, then you have more of that taking in, and maybe even the amplification like you're speaking about. So also understanding that depending on our design, we take in and also clean in ways that are individual, like they're unique, you could say, more than anything. And that's why, like you say, a system like human design can show us that we can be empowered, because we know where our openness and we know what we take in, what we filter, what gets filtered through us. And then once we become aware, like you say, then we can find the ways of cleaning it, or cleaning it, or transmuting it, or whatever, however we see it. But yeah, so to not have that, you say dissonance, and for me, like the word that I often use, like the interference, I can see it in the geometry, and it's almost like the air is like vibrating in a different way around that kind of interference energy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that reminds me, and maybe it could be a short little topic or a short video, but well, I love, we can talk about the problem of these dissonances and how they happen, but how can we highlight what are the best practices of coming into an experience without interference?
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine, the things that come into my mind is like nature. How often are we getting and sitting next to a tree and with our back to it and closing our eyes and breathing and letting that life force of the energy of the tree like actually just flood through us and clear and help that purity. How often are we truly focused on our truest essence, that the precious innocence, back to the open heart, right? How do we use the design to come back to our open heart, to where we can, that innocence and that pure, I don't even know how, undefinition, just pureness, that purity can then filter through, and like a cup is to, uh, like a cup, we are the cup, and the love is the water that fills up. Instead of going and trying to pull out the impurity, or stick your hand in and pull out let that water fill so much and refill that it overflows naturally, just goes out on its own. And
Mm-hmm.
how can we have I'm just thinking, what are the practices we can do to come to this state of interference? And I just think of I wrote a whole list of the most successful and important things to go to, because if we have that on the forefront of our mind, let's say we have a list on our fridge or a list in our phone, or we like, what's our go-to when I'm feeling funky? It's like it becomes on the forefront of the brain, which then it makes it an actionable choice. It makes it in our options. Even if let's say we get triggered, it's like, oh, I can come right back to it, and then I can choose to do that activity, which then empowers us to make the choice that will change the trajectory of that day and how we handle that interference or not. That's a whole nother topic that I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that sometimes when we run around like you say, in the city without nature, can even be hard to feel the interference. So we might not even just like detect it either. We can just feel like unease or agitation. Like these are the shadow frequencies that I speak about in the gene keys, for example. Like you feel something is there, but you don't really know what it is. And I feel like the more aware we become, also it's easier to have those, to know which one of the to go tos. Because sometimes for me, I do calls about intimacy and sexuality, and sometimes when then I do feel like whatever, like the questions or the fears or whatever is in that interaction. And then sometimes like shaking is really good. And I have this short like 10 minutes, like a declaration of intent. So I just like, and you speak it out loud as you listen to it, and I shake, and it's like 9 minutes and 43 seconds, and then I feel, then my vessel is clean again. But that thing would maybe, if I wake up one day and I feel like I'm kind of low, and I have a lot of individual circuitry, a lot of melancholy, like shaking to that wouldn't do anything. Like then I would go out and maybe stand in the grass and do some qigong and listen to the birds. So it's that thing too. It's like there is really not one thing fits all occasions, or one thing fits all people. So I love the thing with the list, especially as so many, like 70% are generators. So when we see that list, I think we're going to get like we're going to get the bodily response to it. But if we just have an open-ended question what to do, like especially with open head and ajna, like I have a million ideas of what I could do, but it can be easier if we have something to respond to. So I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, maybe what we could do too is, after, like, you and I could have a 10-minute chat and just jot together, because I actually see how I have a wonderful, like, a whole list of things, but I think you have a unique perspective as a generator, because for those who don't know, I'm an emotional manifester. Um, and I have a very different perspective on life than most, let's say 70 to 90% of people, as far as from my aura perspective, and as far as from, yeah, I think that's safe to say. And but I live in a world of generators, and I love generators, and I love projectors, and they're beautiful, incredible beings when they're respected, and when they know how to respect themselves, and when they are empowered, as opposed to taken advantage of, or demonized or put down. um,
And I have a curiosity, like a question. So I have lately so many reflectors reaching out to me, and many of them are 4-6 reflectors, and some are 6-2 actually as well. And I'm wondering, like, what do you feel? Because you have 7 open centers, and a reflector has everything open. And I feel like there's a very big difference with a projector that has a lot of open centers and a reflector. I never really thought about a manifester with that many open centers. Like you say, often there are many channels, and there's still a manifester, but you have so much openness. So how do you feel like your design compared to a reflector? Like, are you able to tap into like the
Yeah.
difference and the similarity?
I'll tell you, this is, for a while, I referred to myself, this might give you an idea, as a reflecting emotional manifester.
Wow.
I'm like, because I take in so much,
Right.
it's so much. The information is endless, and as an emotional manifester, the not self, if I initiate too soon, or if I initiate out of my spleen, if I initiate basically out of fear, or if I initiate out of my open head, and that's probably the one I do the most. I am an open head, and that one just gets me. um, or the pressure, if I initiate out of pressure, or the need to prove. Actually, the need to prove is probably the one that happens the most for me. It's severe. It's a big one. Um, I I immediately notice that those energy, they take over basically. So I'm also being a 4-6, so this is perfect. I was a 4-3 for the first 30 years. I just had my 30th birthday in December on the 6th. So I'm just coming onto the roof. I've been in trial and error for 30 years, roughly, give or take, and I have done everything wrong, and I know what it feels like. I've given into every single. Um, I've learned those energies through experience, which I think is also the most empowering, and why. I don't know if people know this, but it's the mistakes that make the perfection of a 6 the perfection of a 6.
Right.
It is the failures, it is the challenges, it is the suffering, it is the wisdom, if one chooses to wise up, or if they choose to integrate the wisdom, which is inevitable. I truly believe it's inevitable for a 6 on some levels. Like
Yeah.
there's this pull, there is this natural perfect unfolding of nature. I mean, these are genetics, like these are, it's a destiny to be actualized. It's in my opinion. um, but you can absolutely thwart thwart what's the word, thwart it. Basically you can go against it and you can stop it, but the pull is there. And that perfection isn't perfect, like many people think of a perfect
Mhm.
body. It's perfection of refinement. It's perfection of, I did this wrong so many times, I know exactly how to do it now. It's like, um, I know, and I know why. I know why this works, and I know why that didn't work.
Yeah, because there's more to because I feel like even a third line can, like, they are from mistakes, they are learning and they're cutting and they're starting on a white sheet again. So even like there's something even more enveloping in the, like with a 6th line, or developing with a 6th line, which is this, there is a kind of discernment, and there's also of course the wisdom. So there's even more, it's not just like this work, this doesn't work, it's like this, it's this kind of refined discernment like you're talking about, that can even, guide, it's guiding you from like its wisdom, but it's also like a voice that has an authority that is so different than the 5th line authority that kind of comes from the throat and your own truth. The 6th line kind of has this like in another way than the 5th line, it has a universal perspective because it is kind of on the roof, like it sees it from a, like, it is the, in one way it's judgment, but it's also like so objective, so that it doesn't care about like there's something so interesting with the 6th line that I hope also we are going to feel more and more home in this world, because sometimes, for me, especially as that completely open emotional center, sometimes I can be like I can almost be detached is a good question, like it's a good way of putting it, because the sixth line is so objective, and then there's nothing, everything's just reflecting from that emotional. And I look at the world and I'm like, I'm so longing for us to, for six lines to feel more home, and actually being able to do something different than detaching, being able to hold that six line perspective and then infuse it in the world, so that these, you know, mutation or this like leap or whatever it is can start, that vision that I'm holding is starting to like, you know,
Mhm.
rippling through the world, which sounds, you know, it's like we're so many, there's so many six lines, and all of us have six lines in our profile, so it's not just like a little portion of people that have the ability to tap into the six line. I think that's important to say. But as for six, I think we have it, like, you know, it's our unconscious lines, our bodies, our spirituality, it's our soul somehow. So it's such a pressing, like it's, there's such a, I don't know, it's a different kind of pressure than the root pressure, the head pressure, but it's really there, and it's so present, and it's
Yes.
even when we're still a
Present.
third line, it's still there, you know,
Yes.
it's already there.
I really appreciate and I feel it's funny, I feel validated in a way when you say that, but the presence is what I was referring to of the six. Like it's it's been there even when I was a three. Like it is imagine it's a spirit guide. Like it's like it's a grandmother, it's like a grandfather, it's like right there with you, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
It kind of feels the same way. By the way, I think I should mention part of my chart is like I'm a double Pisces. So Pisces are all about emotion and the astral. So it's very, the astral awareness is something I realize that I tap into a lot, which is
Mm.
astral is all aura too, in my opinion. It's aura. And that's how um, I've been able to actually perceive a lot of these things. Like, um, that we talk about. Human design for me is just giving verbiage to what I experience, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. So
Mhm.
when you say you detach, I really appreciated that you say you're able to detach as a non-emotional, um, and I could see how you would see that as maybe being cold or being not, not caring, or but it's actually it's really important for you. It's super important for you. And I also wanted to reflect to you that I see you are being this, what you want, you're already being what you're wanting to create. Like for a six line to have, I feel like you're already being, like when I go online and I see, oh, there's Bella, and I see that there's Bella, and then there's, you have this Facebook group, and then you have and the way you clearly communicate what you do, or at least visually or through, whether the graphics, you're already calling in the reality, and you're already creating the space, like, hey guys, this is what it is, this is what it is. And by you are being the role model. And so
Right.
by being the role model, I want you to know that you are actually emanating what you're wanting, and you're inviting others to meet you there. You're
Right. It's, and it's like it's the 4 6, I see that in you too, because it's the sixth line is the role model, and it can step into that after 30 usually. And then the fourth line is the, like it calls it in with a heart, right? It's like not the heart center, but like, you know, that's what we do, we speak about our truth, and that's inspiring somehow, that's convincing even, you know. So it's so that, like, I feel like you just spoke about the 4 6 profile in 2 sentences and explained like how it's made up, you know.
we'll have to take that clip and just, and the 4 6 bam. um it's so good. I feel really nourished, just nourished speaking to, with such, it's interesting. I don't feel like I'm being heady. I feel like I'm using words to describe a lot of experience. And to me, this feels very nourishing to, of course, you're a generator and you nourish. And, so just sharing that space is awesome. But the topic feels, um, what I've learned, this is also a process of healthy individuation.
Mhm.
Doing this is healthy individuation, where we live in a world of codependency and narcissism and all the spectrums in between, that this is helping to assist and redefine our centers of who we are, our core, our essence, our and like I mentioned, it's like and from connecting to the essence, rather it's a different approach to deconditioning. It's a you can go into the trauma, you can go and get involved in the dynamics of what happened, and this happened, and this energy was imposing on me, and like this was conditioning, or you can focus on who you are, and you
Mm-hmm.
can also emanate and amplify and reinforce that, and then from that perspective you can naturally identify and disidentify with those energetics that are within or processing out. So I've been doing that a lot in my own work as a 4/6 and coming into my 30. Can you tell me, is it 30 when you officially are on the roof, or is it somewhere between 28 to 30 for the
Well,
six?
yeah. So it's whenever you have your Saturn return, which is between year 28 and year 29, usually, I think. So
Oh,
it's, yeah.
then I've passed that because I just turned 30. That actually happened between then.
Right. And then I think the fourth line, since it's kind of social, and it kind of, so I feel like for 4/6, the moving up on the roof can be a little less, it's not like a 6/2 that hermit kind of like goes there. It kind of draws back. For 4/6, we don't really draw back, we're always in the world. So I think that's also why the roof phase for 4/6, that could be another topic actually, because the roof phase for 4/6 can both, it looks different from other 6 lines profiles, and it looks different also from one 4/6 to another. It's not like, I've had this kind of feeling ever since I, went up on the roof officially, for the like whatever, whenever my Saturn return was, like a kind of like leave me alone feeling more than before. But that has more been a feeling. It hasn't been something that actually, I actually didn't go away. Actually didn't go up on the roof to the extent where I could really even say that that was a movement that I had done. And now I feel, just lately, I feel more the withdrawal, where I actually do take the time and the space and whatever it is to be withdrawn, or to be overseeing, or to be discerning, or to be integrating. And that's naturally happens now. And officially it's like 7 years or something. So,
I mean, I'm curious about that. I'd like to know more about how it serves you to be withdrawn, like how it serves your process, your internal integration. Like all of this, I would say the sixth line is, it's all about integration.
mhm,
If you say, if there's one word, it would be like wisdom integrated, is what I would think. If the sixth line, and I haven't been reading up on all the details, so like I'll be, my mind isn't fresh with the familiarities of the specifics of these. Whereas like last time we talked, I had been researching and it was like right on the tip of my tongue. Um, so, but when I think of 4/6, it's um, I mean, the idea, one of the things is this it's aiming towards perfection, but the perfection is wisdom integrated, and wisdom
mhm,
integrated is from a bunch of experience and trials that wasn't working, and it's this
yeah.
beautiful buildup. I mean, when you think of it geometrically too, you see like all these, let's say, fragments coming into less fragments, coming into solid or crystallization, coming into like a pillar of light, like
Mhm,
if that makes sense. That's how I
yeah.
kind of visualize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would like to know
Yeah.
for you how it serves you. Like, what is it like to be, um, the secludedness, and are you like me? Like, you really are nourished and have a desire, and even you need to go out into the world and be with people, and then back, and then out, and then
Mhm.
back, and then do you have that relationship to as well?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds very much like the 33rd gate, that goes out and has an experience and then retreats and integrates, right? And that's one of the it's the codon ring of trials. So it's the 33, the 12th, and the 56, the distraction, vanity, and the 33 that is, forgetting to retreat. So yeah, I think that's something where it's actually, I think it's for all of us, to that 33, that trial of like being all the time in experiences, or all the time in distraction and kind of vanity, like those three go together, and that is the trial for humanity, that are preventing us from like seeing more or being more. So yeah, I absolutely feel that. I think before, no, I think I've always actually pushed myself to do that movement too fast. So too much like out and back and out and back and out and back. And now it's more like the longing for having longer periods of interaction maybe, or more actually longer periods of integration. And that
I
I
identify
have
with that.
yeah, and staying in one place, because as a business consultant, and then afterwards, like whatever work I do, it feels like I'm like doing grid work or whatever, like I'm just placed in different places and I'm traveling all the time. And it really feels more and more the last 3-4 years that I want to stay longer in one place. And like we were speaking about before, grounding, and it's also that part, even the physical part, the energetic part, but that is part of that integration of all the planes of everything, I think, and of the wisdom. And when you were speaking right before about the crystals and how it looks, for me the sixth line is a lot like the rainbow. So it has all the colors, so we also have all these experiences before the sixth line has kind of fulfilled itself, uh, or has a clear discernment. It goes through all the colors of the rainbow, and then it goes through all the experiences of the rainbow, and then it integrates, and then the only thing that comes out is white light, like something like that.
Yeah, yes, that's it. I love that because crystals, or when I think of fragments into, I was literally seeing pieces. So they could be colorful rainbow pieces. They're fragments, and those fragments are like all these experiences that are trial and error, or they're like, I just see dozens of them, like hundreds, little like almost like shattered glass, but not quite as like, and then coming into more like they get closer, and then the structures get like, those pieces get closer, and you can start making connections, like, oh, like you're looking at all the pieces as a bunch of pieces that are separate that need to come together, and almost like something magical happens with those pieces. Like it's almost a metamorphosis, like it's almost like
Yeah.
it's almost like a healing, where those pieces then come into such close proximity that they start communicating with each other, and they start resonating and creating a resonance, and there's a field of resonance from all those pieces that bring another resonance, a deeper resonance, a wisdom, that something happens where you have an opportunity to fuse those pieces together. And that fusion, or that integration, that um, um, energetic transformation that's possible, makes a crystal. Like that's how I see it, like one solid piece. And it's like, and somehow that fusion made it 10 times stronger, or 100 times stronger than if you were to somehow made it other ways. And then that crystal can then beam light, whatever it's, all the rainbow colors, one rainbow color, or white light, which is all of them. Like I like kind of see that. That's the sixth line, in my opinion, is like, when, especially, I don't know, because I'm not in my 50s, but wait till we get in our 50s and 60s.
Yeah, and then we say, as like, I mean, this even brings me back to DNA, and makes me think about 2027, and being more in, not in a first line, but in a sixth line, as a collective, as a planet. And even the DNA becoming more crystalline, becoming more light. It's like something that is happening. It's something that it's a mutation that we're going through right now. And I think the crystal analogy is more than just an analogy. It's actually happening. Our DNA is becoming that, more than, like, it's lighting up. It's like, it's rebuilding, and it's like, it's that's, and it's spiraling as well. So that, like,
Remembering.
which is back to this, which is kind of back to that 33. When we retreat, the revelations comes, and we remember who we are and why we're here. So it's really like, it's that is kind of, I feel like we're coming a whole circle in this, like what we were just saying.
Yes,
It's,
which I want to circle it one more, is back to the spleen, or the open centers, is when we have the interference, when we have openness. So back to openness is here to teach us what we're not. It's harder to gain those wisdoms. We have maybe more trial and error, but that integration. I wanted to say that the analogy of, you can't see your reflection in boiling water. Therefore, if you're angry, like me, I'm a manifestor. Anger happens, and if you're upset, if you're clogged, like if your waters are your centers are full of the gunk of the world, the junk, the trauma, the drama, the pain. And as I just need to say, the masculine patriarchal power over structure. I need to just name that big elephant in the living room. That can superimpose itself over our perception, and then back to the DNA. That I wanted to connect that circle around. When we clear all that out, we're able, the retreat, you said the retreat, we're able to see clear. That's what I want to say, is we're able to see clearly because, number one, we can calm ourselves down when we're alone. When we retreat, when we integrate, it's like the water goes from boiling to settling, and we can see our reflection, and we have the time, if we wish, because we can also not. We can also have our thoughts keep that water simmering, so it's just bubbling enough so we never have to see our reflection. And I love that analogy. Somebody saw it and I was like, oh, this is perfect. We are water. So we are water, 70% water. This planet is 70% in a direct ratio to us. And somebody called, human, the word human, H-U is hue, like the color, the man of color, the person of color. If you look at us, any higher evolutionary being, forgive me, I'm getting into this, but we have other beings of higher orders that are less density and higher frequencies. They perceive us in all the spectrums of light that we exist. They see our chakras, our colorful, what is that? Violet, indigo, blue, green, all these colors that make us up, which are connected to the centers that are energy that get clogged, they get opened, or they close. They're open or they close on the back, right? So the human goes through this evolution of color, of all the colors of experience, whatever that is, whatever the lessons are, and integrates them. And all the colors of the rainbow make white light, which is our source, which is remembering. To remember, like when we think of something, is to put something back together, to member it, to become a member of it. And water, if you guys have seen the documentary Emotion, I definitely suggest it, Energy and Motion. But water is, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, has memory to it. And if we're 70% water, and water can have a crystalline structure, and especially from Dr. Emoto's work with water and freezing of the structures, intention vibrates, creates the frequency through the structures of the molecules, and those molecules then make a symmetry and a harmony, and that emanates from the molecular level to the cellular level, from the cellular level to the feeling level. And when those are in balance, we feel the imbalance of that as a symptom. And we use them as, this gets into medical terms, this gets into medical world, but a symptom is simply a sign or a signal of an offense. So go find the offense that internally that offended your molecular structure and resolve that, and you go to the root cause of that. So, and that's what a 6 is resolving all of these. Integration is the resolution of what it is not in many ways, and what it really is.
Right. Yeah, and since my work with intimacy and sexuality, my internet connection. Can you hear me?
That was a big ramble there. Thank you for listening.
No, I love it, and it brings me into that, like the water analogy. So when you work with intimacy and sexuality, and you are 6 line, I see this a lot with people that are 6 line in their design moon. So what we call in the gene keys, the attraction, kind of how your sensuality or sexuality come out. And I think as a 6 line, we see that when we connect with another person in liquid, whether it's saliva, that's the kiss is like the first, the most obvious one. It's like that water is a conductor, like you say. So when we share from that, and as a 6 line, the discernment you can have of like all the colors of the rainbow that happens when 2 electrical beings are connecting through that conductor, that's a completely new way too of looking at sexuality and looking at energy, between two people. So I love that we brought it up, and I think these are things that we want to speak more about. But it's just so perfect to like see, yeah, we're water in ourselves, and then there are ways, like there are intensive way of conducting with another being that are like that can make us understand how powerful it is and how much discernment we would actually have if we understood that to connect with other people in liquid, you know.
Wow. Wow. You just really, that was so good. That was so good. Um, I, I'm just sitting with the beauty of what you just said and the implications of it for a moment. Mm. I appreciate your respect and your reverence for human sexuality. Mm. It's such a big topic, such a big. Um, I mean, it's life itself, which as a generator, you are life itself. And it's not like I'm not life itself, but it's definitely different. I distinctly know I'm different. And that's one thing I do want to distinguish as a manifester. I feel that I'm an alien. Meaning like I feel I am not one of the generators. Like
Right.
it's so clear. There's no, and I'm sure you know that by talking to other manifestors. Have you had them say that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, probably more than other, yeah, aura types. Yeah, but there's also many manifestors that don't even like. That's what I feel with you. You know, there's this like I feel like that you're actually even interested in speaking to me, because sometimes I feel manifestors, but maybe more like the 45-21 or like, that kind of like, sometimes I don't feel like there is this repelling aura, and I don't even feel like there is the interest to actually speak with me or touch upon something more than just kind of like putting it out there and see how, like, whatever. So it's interesting to like yeah, this is why I feel it's different to have, for example, an ego throat connection definition or an emotional throat, and that many. I don't have that much experience. I have, yeah, maybe a couple of 1-3 emotional um, manifestors, but it's different. It's just different because when you have the lower trigram and
Well,
the individual, it's just so different. And for me, I feel like I'm a different animal because I have so many six lines paired with so many fourth lines, and so that's what, like, in my gene keys, which is not all the activations, but I only have 6 line fourth lines and a couple of third lines, so there is no first and second, and there is no fifth lines either. So it's like it's also kind of a different, like, it's like you're dialing certain tones a lot. So I guess that this is also something I think all human beings, in many human beings, not all, because sometimes I'm biased. Like sometimes people tell me, "But you live on another planet," like, and I'm like, "Yeah, maybe. Like your world is different," and maybe it is because I don't see so much. And I think this is with the open ego too. I see less of the running in the wheel, that humanity is doing to prove ourselves. Mm, so yeah, I guess that when you step out, when you disconnect a little bit, then you might not see that epitome that is there in humanity. Um, I do feel though that many of us are waking up and feeling like we are maybe came to the wrong planet, or that many of us are feeling like a different animal, or feeling that we need some other nutrition. Whether it's nutrition is everything. It's everything from food to environment to who surrounds us, and that's part of where we are now, feeling like this doesn't work for me. I'm not like everybody. It's that uniqueness and individuality and differentiation that we speak about in human design, and that is actually put in the light, and something beautiful.
mm, nutrition. The word nutrition, when you look it up in Latin, actually, it breaks up into two roots. There's nut, N-U-T, and then ration, and nut goes back to the Latin root nux, and that actually means light. and Rishan, uh, or Trishan, Rishan means the process of. So the
Mm.
word, what you just said, is everything is nutrition. That's one thing that stood out really quick. Our environment, our what we eat, what we listen to, what we're surrounded by, and you're talking about how you're not may not be so aware of all the proving it that's out there because you live in a different world. Well, it's because you're here to be a role model of the new world where we're supposed to be, right? Like this is your gift. You being you is the gift in itself. Um, you being able to vocalize it is like a gift times 20, if that makes sense. You being able to lead it and help other people and talk about it is like, I mean, it's huge, Bella. It's huge. So I thank you for that. And but the process of light from the nutrition is the same thing we were talking about, these electrical beings of rainbows of all the light coming together through water. It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, we're here on the water planet, and it's like that this is a perfect life planet, meaning it's built for life. If you go to Mars, there's no water, I
Mhm.
think. If you go to these other ones, there's no water. When you look at it, it's so perfectly made to foster life.
Right.
And I mean, to get, I don't even know if this is true, but I love the idea of it, that Earth is actually a living library for many galaxies, and
Mm.
that like different plants, and we're different souls, and we're all this big beautiful melting pot of what it could have been. And maybe that's why this so many light beings are incarnating now. Maybe that's why we are at the precipice now, the end of the age. And I'm not knowledgeable about all these things, but they come to my mind. And
Mhm.
heard the new age spiritual talk, and I take them into consideration. But I know that, as a 4/6, 4/6 are innate leaders, and I feel the ability in the future of my life to be a guide. And a guide is really a leader, in my opinion, is someone who's willing to take responsibility, accountability, and do the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just, this is like, I hope I'm not offending anybody, because it's not about that. We can speak about all the profiles and what's special, but there is something that just came to mind, where like I see a lot of 6/2s that are role models also. And sometimes, especially when they are younger, like in their 30s, I can sometimes like, there's a little bit of arrogance that I can become like irritated by. And
Yeah.
there's, for me, the 4/6, the fact that the 6th line is unconscious, that we can't tap into it consciously, we can only embody it. And then we have that 4th line that actually speaks from the heart. For me, there's something so powerful when the perfection comes, and the wisdom comes from the unconscious, from the soul, and then it's spoken through a 4th line heart. And it's so different than when the personality and the conscious is the perfection. Then it's like, it's so much easier that the guitar, like you're saying, or the two songs are playing at the same time, because that conscious mind is interfering with the perfection, and then it suddenly becomes false. That's why it's beautiful when the 6th line is in the body, because you can't really hijack it. It's kind of there because it's in the imprint before you can even, like, your role or your personality is even interfering.
Wow. Wow, that was so well put. I have not. I mean, I'm getting full chills through my body when you're saying that. Like full on. Like I'm hearing an applause in my body. Like, oh, that's so humility. I kept how humbling it is and this is for us, and I think for anyone listening, we're highlighting the 4/6 because we want to speak to experience. We want to
Mm.
speak to things that we are not theorizing, that we're not reading in books, that this is our daily experience of evolution, of deconditioning, of trial and error, of interacting with other humans with different designs and noticing similarities and noticing differences and how distinct they are, as distinct from a cello playing from a guitar. It's like, hey,
Mm.
you play different music. Wow, I like your music. It's really cool. But at some point, I'm gonna come back and just play my cello, and I innately know how to pick that up in a way that I don't know how to do that one. I mean, it's
Mhm.
that simple. Um, although also, for me, I'm like, I'm a jack of all trades, but I can play the piano just as good.
Me
But
too. I have the
yeah,
16 in my relating, like in my Mercury. So it's like, it thinks I can do versatile all over the
yeah,
place.
I'm like, I play all of them so good though, and that's the rainbow, right? But
Hmm.
anyways, what I think you just said is this: when it's through the heart, because I think the four, and I, as I know it, is all about the network. It's like it's are we are grown. What's good about us or not is grown by our network.
Yeah.
It's fostered by our network. It's fostered by the community, by the people who receive and support us. They see us. They see the importance. They see these qualities we talk about, and they like, I want to support it, and then
Yeah.
they share it. So what comes to my mind is, because we are so I don't want to say other centered, but we in a way are. We're very oriented towards the other. We're a part of the other. We're aware of the network. We're building it. We care. I think we, fours and me. I mean, people see us as friendly. We are friendly. Like
Yeah.
we're friendly, and so I just want to say that that friendliness is our natural frequency. It's our natural music. It's this buoyancy that also is nourishing. It's like gives more life. It's like, why wouldn't I be lighter if I could be lighter? Why wouldn't I be happier if I could be happier? Why won't I share that happiness? Because that's contagious. Let's play music together. It's so much better. Um,
Yeah. And I mean, I guess for people that are new to human design, and maybe it's not spoken so much in human design, more in the gene keys, we can refer to the lines. So the lines in the profiles, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as the chakras. So a 4, 6 would be the heart chakra and the crown chakra together. That's why we say the crown chakra is a bit detached. It's kind of not even here anymore, but it's future, right? So that's how we can refer to it. If you're a 1, 3, then you know the root and the grounding in the fire. So that can be an easier way to understand the embodied principle, or the energy frequency, like you say, the heart or the friendliness, doing what we love and then inspiring other people to do what they love. So I think that's exactly what you're talking to. And
and
on that note, like on the note of the 33 as
gotta,
well, I feel, yeah, I have 1 minute, no time to retreat before the next Zoom call.
sorry.
But it's like, yeah, it's a play of life, right? And I think this is maybe the last thing I kind of want to just say is that, I love this conversation between us because it's playful. And I think that's one of the most important things for the 4-6, that we want it to be playful, because sometimes we can be so idealistic and we can be, our longing is so big. So not forget to be playful and celebrate life as it's going on as well, right?
Yes, and on that, it's 10 o'clock, and I know you have a call. So I'd love to revisit this soon and continue. But this was good. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
I love it too.
it. And lastly, I just want to say the humility that 6 that comes through is the, I think the integrating piece of it all, and something that you're saying, the 6-2 sometimes gets, I think it's maybe even a hiccup. It's like it's maybe the final challenge, the final frontier that we all have, and that's ultimately humility, and that's the dissolving of the ego from individuality to oneness,
Right.
and that oneness is truly the truth. And when that comes through the unconscious, through our heart, that's where something greater than us comes through. And it's not only
Mhm.
us, it's the role model of higher consciousness, of wisdom and love embodied, and who knows, the ascended masters, our ancestors. I mean, it's a culmination of more than us, and that, I
Mhm.
think, is what humility, plus wisdom and integration can all provide.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Well, thank you so much for tonight and for the morning for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And
Thanks,
let's speak
Bella.
again soon.
Yeah, let's do that. Just message me sometime, because message me sometimes you're available. Okay, bye.
Mhm. Bye.